industries or institutions that would have operations in more than one country. And we know them, in this case, the likes of EcoBank, the likes of Equity, KCB, if you bring in, that they have operations in more than one country, then data center played a very big role because they didn't have to have another data center in that country because it is expensive. A good data center will go in anywhere between $100 million. It is possible that you can get to that level. So instead of having that replicated in another country and every other country, centralizing became the best thing. And therefore you find the EcoBanks running their data center in Togo, by serving 30 countries or anywhere about that number with one core banking. And because they are my customer, anytime they would acquire an institution that has local ATMs and so on, we would connect to Togo without having any local infrastructure required in the country. So it was a cost saving in terms of instead of duplicating the cost and so on. So to answer you, now we are brought up in a situation whereby AI is bringing in data sovereignty, that my data has to reside in the country. It defeats the whole purpose of cloud computing, data center centralization, because now the countries are saying, no, 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 you operate in my country, data has to sit in my country, and therefore it counters the benefits of having one data center in Togo. So they are forced, either they close shop in that country, or they have to set up a data center in the country. What does that mean when you have now a situation whereby all banks are now being told you have to set up a data center? I mean, it's a good decision from a country perspective because now you're going to create jobs and so on. But the only way, assuming you were in a group of 30 banks and 15 are from outside and they have now central, the only way is to say, oh, who can serve us from a centralized data center? And that's how now the commercial data center comes in. Because it's saying, now one person says, instead of us, all of us duplicating, bringing in data center, why don't we use one, either government or private or otherwise, why don't we use an existing data center to serve us all? I hope it's clear on my journey.
Yes.
Yeah. So that localization, that sovereignty, that create jobs locally. Obviously, we'll be talking about the cost of and dependency of data centers. But now AI now is going to be successful if that data that's sitting in country is exposed. Because again, when you localize, you're not talking about machine learning, it will speak your own local language. It will not depend on any other data outside. But once you give it the internet infrastructure, now it is able to collect data locally and internationally and give you better feedback.
Thank you. No, thank you. So you mentioned about your journey, right? And so the future is data sovereignty. That means we build into the future, right? And so Ichi, tell us now, what does the future look like, right? So we are heading into localization. We are talking about data autonomy. We are talking about AI autonomy, right? All these things are driving, conversations about the new case of data centers, right? And you're in the heartbeat of it. So what does that look like?
It's okay, Doc. If I had a crystal ball to tell you what the future is going to look like, I would be a multi-billionaire. Yeah. So before I even talk about what the future looks like, I think it's good to just sort of operationalize what we mean by data center and what we mean by AI infrastructure. So at least for the benefit of those of you here who are not familiar with it, I'd love to take 5 minutes, no, 2 minutes, just to talk through it.
Yeah, no,
so
fantastic.
I hope you don't mind me standing. I was a professor at some point, so I would always walk around.
Yeah, take your time, maybe stand.
Okay, is that okay?
Yeah.
So just for illustrative purposes, I'm going to walk from top left, which is up there, to bottom left. Okay? Top left is anyone over here who brings up a device, whether it's a machine, a computer, a smartphone, and you want to access anything on the internet, be it a search, Gemini, hopefully not ChatGPT. So that person up there is representing the end user who actually interfaces with the device. What's in the dotted box is what I mean.
Can we ask people here who are end users, right? Can you ask, like, can you give an example of an end user?
An end user is you, anyone who's taking a picture, anyone who's interacting with the device is an end user. Are we okay with that? Anyone who has a smartphone or a computer, that's who I'm referring to as the end user. So Father, for example, imagine that's you at the end who's interfacing with the device. When we talk about infrastructure, I'm talking about that dotted box over there. So as soon as you hit submit or search, that data gets carried either through your cell phone provider, like Verizon, because I used to work with Verizon, I preach Verizon, AT&T, whoever it is. Or if you're in a place like this, there's Wi-Fi, so that data gets transmitted through the Wi-Fi. And the first thing it hits is that array of networks. So all that blue in that box signifies the network, whether it's terrestrial, whether it's aerial. You see people digging trenches underground. You see people doing subsea cables. You see people doing aerial cables. All your data is traveling over that infrastructure. It's almost like getting in your car and driving on a road or on a freeway.
So the two dots over there are transmission?
The dots are all those little transmissions that, because the data cannot travel that far, so at some point in time it has to hit some place and get amplified. Okay. Someone asked me to talk in layperson's language. I hope that's okay. That makes sense. All right. All right.
Yeah, that's why I keep.
I like that. I like that. All right. So you go through, and all these blue lines. This is the investment that's happening. People are actually getting jobs to construct this network cables. Once that is done,
so
it lands.
So a little bit back on that diagram, right? The world map, right? So we see the blue thing is the blue line across Africa. Is that the fiber?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. So I like this assistant professor over here. So that is also illustrative of how dense the network is. So when we talk about does Kenya have access to network? Yes, they do, through subsea cables, right? So the most important part of this discussion is that building right there. When you hear cloud, or when you hear data center, we're talking about the top right. A data center is simply a building. Any of you who have been to a Naivas or a Target or a Walmart, imagine walking in, and instead of seeing shelves of produce, all you see is computers, 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 computers. That's exactly what that building is. That is a centralized building with a lot of computers, and that's where you're able to access your YouTube, your Facebook, your Instagram, etc. Inside the data center is this. You have an array of, we call them racks and machines, which is, again, just machines. I want you to think about every single laptop of yours over here. Hundreds of thousands of them working constantly at the same time. So and all of them are interconnected.
An array is what?
Like a bunch of computers connected together.
Yeah.
I like that, thank you, thank you. And then this is what it looks like. When this is the aerial shot, this is the side view. So when I walk into a data center, this is what I see. I see what's called a rack, which is like a shelf, and inside is just machines, 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 machines. And inside these machines is the most important person when it comes to AI, the NVIDIA chip. The NVIDIA chip is this very powerful processor. A processor is something that's on your phone, it's on your machine, and it's the one that thinks and processes it for you. But NVIDIA has come up with a way of making it so fast that decisions are made really quickly. So again, when I talk about AI and infrastructure, this is what I'm talking about. I hope, was that okay? Okay,
yes.
All right. Can I ask any questions or not yet?
Yeah,
I'm a professor, so I like.
No questions?
Just on
yes,
AI
yes, please,
infrastructure.
Yeah, let's be interactive.
Well, I just wanted to comment. TPU.
TPU or GPU? Okay. So there's two types of machine learning processors that right now are very common. One is called Tensor Processor Unit, that's the one made by Google, and one is called GPU, Graphical Process Unit, which is made by NVIDIA. And so each of those two are the highest in tech in terms of how quickly they process things. And when I talk about process things, I want you to think about any request that you ask Gemini or ChatGPT. Oh, how many of you have been in a self-driving car or taken one of our Waymos, right? Imagine the amount of decisions that need to be made. That's what those things do. Aisha, I guess.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been thinking about is how do we grow the infrastructure within Africa? Everyone thinks that if they have one of their own data centers, maybe they'll have more sovereignty, as you guys call it. But as a resident in Virginia, we have so many of them, and each month our utility bills are just, going high and high. Do you think in future maybe solar or other solutions can come up to power such infrastructure within Africa?
I'll give a short answer because I don't want to hold the mic, but yes, we need our infrastructure in Africa, and in particularly in Kenya, and I'll tell you why. $1 trillion is being spent on building this infrastructure. With a T. I mean, how many of you have over 1,000 what? 1,000 billion.
Elon Musk can afford.
Right? 1,000 billion. If I look at, let me give you some real quick news, right? Missouri, Google investing 15 billion. Missouri the size of Kenya. I think it's even smaller. Huh? Jackson County, a county in Alabama, 1.5 billion with a B, right? In India, 15 billion with a B. So yeah, we want part of that money, right? We do want to build that infrastructure in places like Kenya.
So Ichi, I wanna and Paul, I wanna go back to the NVIDIA, the chip, right? And I happen to be a material scientist, and one of the biggest challenge of the chips is materials that can transmit electrons faster than what we need. But some of those materials are coming from where?
Africa.
So why is it that we cannot build our own chips?
Could you repeat what they say?
So there's corruption, there's stupidity, there's
brain drain.
Okay, give me another keyword.
We have been
Hoodwinked.
Yeah, they came and stole.
You know? So part of those, a lot of those materials that are making that chip that is driving all this AI, I think I will not be wrong saying 50% is found in Africa. Let me let that sink in. You have a question?
Yeah, so why? I see that as an opportunity. Because
Yes.
all of you guys are here who are doing the process in the US. On the other side, we have it on the other side where we are still behind. So an exchange program is an opportunity for you with the professionals and set it up for Africa even from here.
You're giving us a lot of responsibilities.
How much of that is power and control being exerted by foreign forces wanting to control the resources?
Resources. Yeah, extraction and leave, brain drain, right? It's the same thing as brain drain, right? We call it commercialization. But Mr. Paul here has been able to successfully build something, right? He has been able to build something that is, of course, hiring, changing lives, and billions of transactions of data. And so, if he can do it in, he's in Kenya, right?
Yes, in Kenya.
Yeah, so what is it that, we are missing? What do you think, Mr. Paul, that we are missing?
Ideally, we talk of a lot of resources available in Africa, and I'm talking about both special minerals. We talk about the raw material from agriculture, the teas and coffees and all this. What we lack is capacity to process, which requires resourcing. So the one here is resourcing, and I'm not talking about lack of skill sets, because you can build capacity. I mean, skills you can import skills, and then how knowledge transfer, and then build, operate, and let them go after 5, 10 years, or even 20 years and so on. But the resources of setting up that factory, and then a factory here would mean the data center, for example. Factory would mean the value addition factory that will be processing tea and coffee and the likes before, so that they can get value in country. And we have seen that covers the whole of Africa. If you talk about West Africa, where there is cocoa, they export the cocoa in raw form and still import chocolates, where we have seen on the tables and so on. So it's not lack of knowledge. I think there is lack of goodwill, because if we have smart leaders, they will trade. They will have an agreement that says, I have the raw material, I don't have the knowledge. I mean, I don't have the processing capacity or financing of those factories. Then I need you to come in and we do a partnership, or build, operate, and transfer at a certain time. The same case now applies in IT. I've started again from a distance so that people can understand. The same applies with IT. The billions you're talking about, not many Africans can be able to achieve that. And countries will not be able to prioritize that kind of money, or they have health issues, education. So we have other priorities that tend to press us and give priority, because there's no extra money. But with proper leadership, they can actually be able to say, how do we give you as an expert from those countries, come and I'll give you the land and everything that is needed. And obviously, being government, you regulate, giving tax incentives and so on, so that that person also benefits for the period that will be there. I'm one person that was very disappointed, because Kenya was appointed as one of the countries where Microsoft wanted to put a data center. And I would say, because I'm very close with what was happening, is we had Google coming in and we had Oracle coming in, and each one of them was saying, we'll put $500 million and so on. Then Microsoft comes in and says, we'll put $1 billion. Land was identified, every resourcing, meetings, they flew in, expert, lawyers, I think we had like 20 lawyers in country to come and negotiate. And I hope, I don't know if it's being recorded, but somebody somewhere stopped it by putting a middleman in between the fee, actual fee, and the humanly intervened fee. And Microsoft walked away. $1 billion. After almost a 2 years fight competition between Google, we had Oracle, and obviously Microsoft winning. So you can imagine that being taken in such a remote place where there was no power, resourcing, what it would have done in the continent, obviously starting with Kenya as a country. So what we lack is not the lack of resourcing. If you talk about DRC, for example, where all these minerals and metals are from, it is again lack of an automated processing or mining of that, which can happen in country, and processing happens in the country, and then we get a much better value if we cannot, because you cannot be able to consume all the minerals in DRC. It's quite a lot, yeah.
Thank you. Ichi, I'm gonna pose the same question to you. What do you think, from where you sit, what do you think we're missing?
I think you said it perfectly, right? What are the requirements for a data center? 4 things: land, space, right? Power, cooling, and networking. Those 4 things must be in place. When we talk about land, and to your point, if there's a place where there's a remote location and not necessarily going to disrupt the ecosystem that exists over there, because the company I work for, we go in and some of that land is already dilapidated or has been used for something else, so we reuse it, right? So land space is one. Power. Power is a big thing, and I know all of us Kenyans are smart over here, so I'll give you some math calculations later on, so be ready, yeah? And then cooling. And now where we are at cooling, especially with AI and GPUs, is the cooling happens at a chip level. Like, imagine you have a pipe of coolant running inside the computer to cool it because of how hot it gets, right? So cooling, and then most importantly is networking. Because for a query to work correctly, for you to be able to use AI, each of those chips have to talk to one another very quickly and to talk to outside very quickly. So if I think about those four things and then reframe that question, what are we lacking? From resources required to build a data center, I always call myself American because I've been in America for so long, but it sounds like those four things exist. So now the next layer is what you talked about. Is there a willingness to say, look, I'm going to do what it takes to incentivize these data center providers to come to Kenya, just like we've incentivized people to build the road infrastructure in Kenya. How many of you, I was telling someone here, I've been here a really long time. How many of you are, I know Cleophas, you're from Kenya very recently, but have seen the change in the road infrastructure in Kenya? Like you go and then suddenly 2 years later, you're like expressway, highway. How many of you have seen that and been impressed by that, right? That's the same thing we're saying, incentivize to come build this data center, because with the data center comes tax incentives, it comes kickbacks, it comes jobs, right? And I'll talk about jobs in a second, it comes jobs. So I think it's just creating a structure that is divorced from the middlemen, and I don't know how that would work, but divorced from the middlemen so this can work, because from four things that are required for a data center, those already exist.
Excellent. Any questions?
We can start with this.
Yeah, I have a question. You were talking about the way whatever happened, nobody knew what happened in between. Is there a way that the citizens of Kenya could get together and talk about this and override whatever happened? Because I'm just so frustrated, because I don't know how many of you went to China in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you're so American.
It looks so much like Nairobi in those days. But now if you go to China, it's so changed. What did they do different? I mean, what did they do different? It's part of that, where people are stopping, whatever civilization. Anyway.
What is the other question? What she's asking about the Kenyans people and stuff like that. You had the slogans, 1 term, 2 term, 3 terms. I'm not so sure in China they were spending time on terms.
Good afternoon. My name is Titus Litonga. I work. My background is in law, but because you've touched on a topic that I work in in Transparency International Kenya, which is a non-profit organization that supports issues of governance or the fight against corruption and promoting integrity. And I think clearly, out of the conversation and saying that the 3 or 4 things exist to what we are looking at, is now how do we contribute effectively to ensuring that there is good political will to incentivize investors. And I think for you guys here, there are those channels that have opened up, the diaspora sort of engagements are there. What we need to do is also test the system. So, and these things should also come out so that we expose a lot of what is happening that shouldn't be happening. Because there are a lot of good conversations that continue in the background, but if it's not exposed, then it leaves even other investors just not sure of what is happening in the country, and that disincentivizes even other investors from. So anything that happens should be brought out And there should be ways of testing the system on whether those issues of middlemen and all this still exist, and then trying to address those within the channels that are there, and we are happy to continue that conversation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So you guys have talked a little bit about, GPUs and specifically the rare earth minerals. You're talking about DRC and some countries in Africa where you can find those minerals. We have seen a lot of contracts being signed, especially with powerful countries. How hopeful are you guys in terms of us getting to a point where we have the capacity to actually be able to build and be able to process ourselves? If some of those contracts probably we are not sure of, and some of them might be in perpetuity, I don't know. What is your honest opinion in terms of us being able to actually produce or process?
That's a poll question, right?
We have two more, Dr. Then we come back to you, right?
Hello, my name is Charles. I'm not in IT. I'm not an AI guy. It just happened to know that I was invited by a family member, Dr. Mak'Ouma, that put this together. So when they told me to come here, I didn't know why I was coming here because I feel like I'm not part of it. I'm not in AI. I'm not doing anything in IT and all that. But there's been great information that has come around. I myself haven't been home for a long time. I see us discussing things. My question is it that even if we have AI, do our leaders, our political leaders, do they want this? Or are we doing this on a private sector? And if we're talking about kids coming out, do even our political leaders want us to be in AI or not? Because they should be pushing for it too, right?
Yeah.
Just one last question before we take it back to the panel. And let us also be reminded that this is just a conversation starter. That Dr. Mak'Ouma has put this forum together for us to start the conversation. I gave you my number because there are some things that we miss. There are some of us who are in this country and probably their mindset needs to be refreshed because they left the country about 10 years ago and their mind got stuck 10 years ago. A lot has gone on that we need to fast forward you. It's not all that bad as you read.
So this has been great information. I think I've introduced myself earlier. Right now, startup founder. So I've been building with AI heavy every day, trying to push the models to the limit. So I also live in the Northern Virginia area, and I've been in here since 2008. So I've noticed Ashburn and the whole DMV area grow greatly with data centers. And I think in Ashburn, Virginia is probably the data center capital of the world, more per square mile than anywhere else. And that is also taking its toll on the quality of life. So my question is more so, I know we want to be gung-ho for pushing tech in data centers, but the unintended consequences, I'm wondering, this was tied to my comment earlier about the M-Pesa, where you can skip over the whole telecom infrastructure investment and jump right to 4G at the time, and you can move forward. Are there areas where Kenya can skip the huge, pitfalls and not like integrate into a burning building of, investment that's soon to be outdated? They're talking about building data centers in space and all these different type of ways of generating power and processing. So I'm just wondering, can Kenya take the next step so you don't have to waste and spend all this investment and still be behind tomorrow?
What did you say?
Thank you.
My name is Melanie. I'm here as well on invitation. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you for the information that you've shared here today. It's absolutely incredible. So much education coming forth. My interest particularly is within the intersection of artificial intelligence, data centers, and government and politics. I wanted to find out, how do we advocate for policies that actually support artificial intelligence, data centers, and technology at this juncture in 2026? And how can the Kenyan citizens be able to support that and the advocacy of these policies? So, yes.
Yeah, I also didn't get what she said, but I'm sure the panelists kind of got what she said, right? You guys are okay, you're on your own, okay? All the best.
Yeah, thank you. I think we had questions on leadership, contract, leapfrogging, and policy advocacy. So I am going to start with you. Yeah. We had a question.
I'll answer 2 questions. I think there were like 3. The first one is, this information is available on the internet. So again, we operate in an environment where information is out and is particularly because of the agencies and so on. But I was not in the boardroom that was making those decisions. But I knew the outcome because I was keenly following up on, as a stakeholder, what will happen if we have our own data center. So to answer you, information is available. Again, if you just find out where the status is, I'm sure you can be able to get that information. But to answer, there is a lot of contracts that are happening in countries, both in Kenya and other countries. But I know one thing that I'm certain, without any doubt, is that Kenya still remains a leader. We are an outlier in so many things. And so don't think that whatever has happened on that one, that's the end. The pressure from the Gen Z is the pressure for us to continue leading. And the example I give is, if you see these animal beasts, the wild beasts, when they are going to cross the river, and you are at the top in the front, what happens when the others keep pushing? What happens? You have to jump into the river, isn't it? So think that we are leading in that animal, the beast crossing the Mara River, and the crocodiles, and you're the first animal in the front. The other countries, the other countries and communities will push us in front, isn't it? And we have to continue leading. So yes, it may be murky, it may be difficult, but Kenya has never failed when it comes into technology. So the answer is, we will come to it, and Kenya will still be able to get a data center of that level very soon. Yeah, I think the last one is, we are in the 4th industrial revolution. I think we have started about 200 years back when we were having the industrial revolution, then obviously electricity, then the rail. We are not going to go and start those now. Kenya has to leapfrog, using your exact words, and getting into the table to discuss about AI level revolution. And we are not relenting on that front. So yes, we will continue being the roads because those are still required. We continue doing, but the key point is Kenya has to be at the forefront of AI. That's why we are putting the regulations in place. We have the various industrial sections in the country that are focusing on that area. So Kenya will still lead, but we are on the table to discuss what is in the menu, not being in the menu ourselves. Thank you.
I really like that because there's a lot of optimism baked in what he said, right? And I'll jump back and forth between some of the comments or questions I heard. How do we avoid this happening again? I think it's to declare this as a strategic imperative. The only way that countries are leapfrogging in AI is declaring and saying AI is a strategic imperative. It's a defense mechanism. We need to pour all the money we have into research and defense using AI. That's why all these countries are going all over the world getting these resources. It's not because of AI, because someone wants to use Gemini. It's because if they do not declare themselves as AI strategic imperative, it has an impact on their defense. Read up the Ukraine-Russia war and find out how Ukraine was able to stop Russia from invading with 30 people by using AI. Read about China and what they're doing with their kids. You have to have a computer science to pass elementary, and they're trying to implement that in the USA. Where high school, before you can get your high school diploma, you have to have attended computer science. That is saying this is important to us. So that's the first thing that we need to do, I think, is to declare AI is a strategic imperative for Kenya. So regardless of whether you want to be the middleman, you want to be the corruptor, understand this. This is going to pass regardless. So that's, I think, how we do it. I like your question about leapfrogging, right? There's talking about data centers in space. There's talking about data centers in containers. But let me sort of bring you back a little bit to this slide that I put up there. These are the people I work with every single day when building and running a data center. They're not the sexy jobs that people are talking about, right? You know, prompt engineering. It's a data center technician who understands how to swap a hard drive, how to swap a memory chip. It's a strategic negotiator who's going to negotiate land deals. Lawyers, who's the lawyer over here? The lawyer person over here? And the IP person over here? These are the tech people. These are the people who are enabling AI. So I want you to look down that list and say, wow, you know what? I don't need to be, I'm not saying it in a bad way, a prompt engineer. I could be a corporate counsel and still be contributing to AI. These are the jobs that I want Kenyans to apply for. These are the jobs I want 7net, where's 7net? 7net to train for. These are the jobs I want Joan Marime to tell people about. Yeah, because these are the jobs that are available. These are the jobs, Kiumba, raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hand. He's build AI for small businesses. The way we're gonna succeed in AI is not just taking pictures, AIing it and saying we're influencers, right? The way we're gonna get AI jobs is directly impacting infrastructure, training people to learn AI, and doing small business for AI. So that's why I think even though we can leapfrog in Kenya, we still have a long ways to go. And if we can find a way to make it our strategic imperative and to incentivize, then we're going somewhere. I'll leave you with this. I talk about value worth a lot. Where's Titus? Titus knows I talk about value worth a lot. Value worth is that intersection between what I like, what I'm skilled at, but what the market needs. $1 trillion. How many did you say $1 trillion is? 1,000 billion. Do you guys want to be part of this $1 trillion? Then forget what you like and what you're skilled at. Find what data centers need, and that's what we need to train at.
Thank you. There's something that, something I want us to talk about a little bit, just really back a little bit, because AI does not exist without data. Data centers do not exist without data. One of my biggest concern when it comes to Africa and how we leapfrog is we don't have enough data, or we have not curated data in a way that it helps us understand patterns. In about, I think in 2018, 19, I gave a talk at Safaricom, and it was me telling them Safaricom has enough data to change the socio-economic aspect of the country. That was in 2018. That was when just people were talking about big data, because I believe that that data can show us some sort of pattern recognition. That data can extract some insights. But without that data, this conversation does not even hold any water, right? Because that's just the basic. Paul, you're running transactions, billions of transactions. And I want to know from your perspective, reeling back in, right? How are you curating that data, and how do you practical use cases, right? He talked about like practical use cases that are advancing, socio-economic aspect of it, or even just businesses.
As you prepare to answer that question, this is the last question for this session. As we said, please share your information. You have notebooks on your table. If you've got a question that you want to ask, put it on a piece of paper. We'll always consolidate it. And thank you very much, guys, for your time. And I'm sure in the next 5 minutes we'll be wrapping. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I want to answer again in the same context. Data is the new oil, but that's it, unless you have a refinery, isn't it?
Yes.
And the refinery is the computing part of it. So you cannot have, if you have the data center, which will be now the computers, and there is no data, it's like having a refinery without having oil. So what commences the whole discussion is you must be having oil by the time you're setting up a refinery, and not the reverse. So we are here holding lots of data. Obviously defragmented currently, and I heard some layers about the data having a single view of a medical patient. His data is existing, but that person has gone to quite a number of hospitals and so on. So we have data, but it's defragmented. Are we going to have a centralized single system? Possibly not. This is why you say that the hospital bring your system, replace your system, and all these hospitals, let's use one system. That will take much longer. But now, consolidating relevant data, where you query, and that's what computing and networks are for. You ask where you are, and information is not available. It will go fetch from any other networks in this case. So we have lots of data. It is not well stored or curated. What we need is networks to be able to connect and retrieve that information that is relevant. But then there is now the question of you only have your own mom's food, which is your own African, but how much historical information do we have? So we cannot use our own data to determine the future. We have to use our existing data, then write on other people that are slightly advanced, then create our own path of solutions using those two.
So I told you I'll give you some math calculations. So if you have a book or a calculator or something, be ready, okay? So I told you about the 4 things needed for a data center. Who remembers? Who can say one of them? Aisha. Power. Land. Cooling. Network. Okay, good. So people are listening. That's good. I'll talk about power because someone brought a really good question about power. And I encourage you, there's 2 sides to this debate. People say data centers are taking our power, charging us money. Aisha was complaining about her bills because of the data centers, right? I encourage you just to be open-minded, look it up and see all the good and bad when it comes to data centers coming into our community. I will be very transparent and say I'm very subjective on this topic because I've lived in data centers. I've seen communities really be brought up in data centers. I've seen people who are mechanics earning, minimum wage to making a lot of money because of the data centers in the community. So rather than take just my voice, I would encourage you to look on the internet. But I want to talk about power real quick. So did you guys know the conversion from kilowatts to megawatt to gigawatt? It's like meter to kilometer, what is that? 1 to 1,000, is that okay? 1,000 kilowatts make 1 megawatt. 1,000 megawatts make 1 gigawatt. Are we okay? So 1,000, right? So 1 kilowatt of power can power 6 computers. And that translates roughly to the power required by 3 homes in Kenya, let's say in rural Kenya. So 1 kilowatt, 6 computers, 3 homes. So far so good? So I want you to multiply that 1 kilowatt by 1,000. What does that become? 1 what? 1 megawatt. Hey, good. 1 megawatt can power 6,000 computers and 3,000 homes. So far, so good? Are we together? Multiply that 1 megawatt by 1,000, what do you get? 1 gigawatt. 1 gigawatt can power 6 million computers and power 3 million homes in Kenya. So far, we're good, right? 3 million homes. Do you know that AI that you guys use, when you use Gemini, ChatGPT, the amount of gigawatt space it requires? So just to give you a count, when you account for all other power losses, you're talking about 1 megawatt, which powered 6,000 computers and 3,000 homes, powers 600 GPUs. 600 GPUs is nothing when you're using Gemini and ChatGPT. So here's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, if you do the math, you require a lot of power to do the everyday things that you are asking AI to do for you. So when you say, why data center? No, you're the ones who are asking for this power. You're the ones asking for these data centers.
Dr.
Yes, sir.
You need a session on your own.
And you think so?
With these guys for about 3 hours.
What's the pay?
Because you have so much that you want to share, and we have so much that we want to milk from you, but the time is not allowing us. So you'll just bear with us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Data center.
That's